I grew up in Carlsbad, and it was a very small town, very nice place to live, very good community, people cared for each other.
Some of my favorite things about Carlsbad are the wide open spaces here, that the desert and the beauty and the variety grows on a person. And of course, the caverns. There's a reason why they're a World Heritage Site that everybody should see.
Well, I guess my favorite thing about living in this area is, first of all, we don't have winter. People here don't know what winter is, and I love the desert. I've come to know it after many years of being in it and riding around in it.
So much here in Carlsbad that's beautiful, but lately you can't see it because there's so much ugly going on. It's breaking me.
In 2010, there were 29,000 people in Carlsbad. Because oil companies are pouring into this area of the Permian Basin, the city says there are about 70,000 people now.
The oil is starting to boom again in New Mexico. Workers are pouring in again. That means another housing crunch and soaring hotel prices.
The average hotel price in the city can scare away tourists.
Since we've had the oil and gas boom, the town has changed completely. It's a boom town, so we now have all the problems that go along with that as far as traffic, crime, and people are just not as friendly as they used to be. You could never find a place to rent. To buy a place here was almost impossible. It's changed so much that I think about leaving.
An unprecedented collapse in the price of oil mixed with a pandemic that's claimed lives and gutted the global demand for crude, putting livelihoods in jeopardy amidst an uncertain future.
The U.S. has not seen a drop like this since the early 80s. This, of course, is bad news for New Mexico and its dependence on oil revenues.
About a third of our state's revenue comes from oil production, so today's drop in the market is hitting New Mexico oil producers hard.
We're highly dependent on one giant source of revenue for the state, which is natural resource extractive revenues from oil and gas. And so our fortunes as a state really rise and fall with the industry. So when times are good, when things are booming, our state is succeeding and prosperous, and we're able to invest in things like education and higher ed and all the things that we care about. And when times are bad, like they are right now during this pandemic, it becomes really hard to fund even basic services, and we find ourselves having to cut the budget.
One of the most dangerous things about the boom and bust cycle is how irresponsible some of the oil and gas companies are. And we see this especially with abandoned wells. So when these more independent oil and gas companies try to build their own well sites that emit massive amounts of methane and toxic gases, which affect frontline communities, that in and of itself is horrible. But we see the lack of sustainability and just volatile nature of this industry when something like the COVID pandemic happens and these companies go bankrupt and they're not accountable for the infrastructure that they've already left in place.
It's like 2:38 in the morning, and then I heard this. And I was like, that doesn't sound good, because we've got all these operations right across the street from us, and I didn't know what was going on. This was a new sound that I'd never heard before.
Grabbed my jacket, grabbed my clothes, and was going out the door, and then I could see it shooting over the top of the telephone pole out there and raining down on us. And I'm going, oh my God, what do I need to do? And I'm panicked, and Penny's out here in her nightgown gathering all the animals up and shoving them in the little chicken coop back there.
Trying to get them out of this rain.
I dial 911, and then comes the fire department, the Otis Volunteer Fire Department come out here, and he runs by me and the meter's going off, and I go, do we need to evacuate? And he says, oh no, it's not explosive, it's flammable.
Yeah,
and you could smell the gas, you could smell this horrific odor.
And it was burning our skin and
burbling,
our eyes. And
we're both coated in the stuff, and we're trying to deal with it. Oh my God, we just got sprayed with produced water. And then I start reading about what produced water is, and then I go, oh, that's chemical waste. That's like hazardous waste. Well, the long-lasting effects for Penny have been the rashes, has been the nosebleeds, have been constant headaches. And then she just...
One of the misconceptions about the climate crisis is that it is not a human issue, but it is. It is something that directly affects the frontline communities where these oil and gas rigs are placed. They suffer the health impacts of what it means to have an economy based on fossil fuels.
So some of the most major effects that we see from oil and gas pollution here in New Mexico is that people have a lot higher rates of asthma and a lot of respiratory diseases. We see that more than 130,000 people in New Mexico live within half a mile of oil and gas wells. Among these communities, we see that a lot of these people are Latinx or Native American people, and so that puts them at a higher risk. Within the past year, we've seen that there are several counties that are within 95% of the national air quality standards. We have counties that are within 95% of the limits on methane and ozone that are established by the EPA.
We've come so used to it that we don't even notice the prevailing smell of methane gas here.
If you drive out into the oil patch today, you'll see flares. Some are lit, some are not, some are leaking smoke.
If we have oil and gas continuing, and it probably will for at least the next decade, we need to have some regulations on that. Right now, for the last 8 years up until the last year, there's been virtually no accountability. All problems were self-reported by the industry, and there was really no enforcement of anything that was reported. Nothing in 8 years. Hopefully before the governor now, there's a good process where the industry and the environmentalists get together and everybody has a voice in putting these regulations together that would be fair for everybody, for the health of the people, for the good of the industry.
If industry is flaring or venting gas without paying a royalty for it, then that's taking money out of the pockets of the people of New Mexico and the people of the United States. If that is being vented or flared, then those are greenhouse gases that are being let off into the atmosphere, and we're all paying for that in a different way.
There's really only one solution to dealing with the volatility of trying to budget against one single source of major revenue for the state, and that is diversification and growing our economy. I strongly believe that the only way we can diversify our economy is to build on the strengths that we already have. And New Mexico already has a number of industries that we completely excel at. We have a huge aerospace, biotechnology, and a huge science and technology industry here in our state, and that's an area where we already excel and can grow our economy. We also exceed in the arts and entertainment, in outdoor recreation, in tourism, and also we can capitalize on just the natural beauty of our state.
Solar is obvious choice in this area. We have maybe 2 weeks that the sun doesn't shine in a whole year. I think wind power is another great source. We need to invest in sustainable type energy.
We've committed to a renewable energy future with exciting and fulfilling careers for workers all across our beautiful state, including right here in the heart of northern New Mexico.
I still have hope for Carlsbad's future. I think we still have the potential to make changes, to do the right thing, to make it a really wonderful place to live. Tourist destination, retirement destination, a place to live that with all the natural beauty we have here and all the recreation. I think it's possible.
In New Mexico, the outdoor recreation economy is a powerhouse, contributing billions of dollars every year to the state GDP. In 2017, it employed over 33,000 people. Now, I think that the potential for growth to grow New Mexico's reputation as an outdoor recreation destination, an international outdoor recreation destination, the sky's the limit there because of the incredible natural resources, public lands that we have in this state.
We are living in the Permian Basin, and the Permian Basin is one of the largest producers of oil and gas in the world. So what we do here affects how future generations and our current generations are going to suffer from the climate. The solution is in radical change, and we should not be afraid of structural reforms that look at issues in a very holistic perspective.
One of our problems is that people very often take a very limited short-term view, and we need to take the long view about what happens to our environment and to the land around us.